As the transfer window continues to move on, Arsenal are still yet to make a signing. Now in this video we're going to look at the potential new information coming out that aligns Matheus Cunha with a chance to join Arsenal in the next week, and why he could potentially fit or not fit within the team. So let's get into it. Now I think we've got to that point in the window when the transfer news is getting a little bit annoying. There seems to be all this news about Benjamin Šeško all the time. All these ITKs keep saying that Arsenal could spend the money and might spend the money, yet by really reliable sources it doesn't really seem like Arsenal want to spend the money to get him. Now it was reported that Leipzig want around £67 million, which I think is a really good deal, as you can probably see by all my tweets if you have me on Twitter. But ultimately we've spoken about Šeško so much over the last few weeks, I think it is time to just see what happens in that situation. Now with that being said, another player has come to a lie. Matheus Cunha for Wolves, that all of you will know, a few weeks ago was linked to Arsenal. However, this was seen as sort of a play just to get a new contract, and it was reported by Fabrizio that he was going to sign a new deal, pretty much ended all speculation. Now that was 3 weeks ago, however, and since then a lot of new information has come out. There's been reports that Matheus Cunha isn't exactly really willing to sign that new deal and is kind of putting it off. And then when you factor that into the game last night against Chelsea, it does look a little bit more suspicious. Now first of all, when I saw the information a few days ago about Matheus Cunha potentially being an option for Arsenal, I mostly thought it was the agent probably trying to drum up a better contract for Wolves, or to see what available options there would be for Cunha if he didn't sign that new deal, which he still hasn't. Now despite that, Matheus Cunha obviously hasn't been playing a lot recently. He got banned for slapping, I think, a Brighton coach after the game and was out for a few games because of that. But against Chelsea, I think it was a clear frustration with him throughout the whole game. Now I will say he didn't have the best game overall, but I will stand by the fact that he is their only attacker that has any sort of ability to actually score a goal or create. 90% of the time their forward line would get into attacking areas and they would just panic and just pass the ball to Cunha, hoping he'd make a run or make an incredible goal. However, it was quite clear that there was a few moments in the game where he was visibly very frustrated. Some passes maybe didn't go right, people didn't make the right runs for him, and he was very angry with the team around him. Now this isn't just a thing down to the game, because even the manager Vitor Pereira came out and said that he is unhappy with how he treated the game, and he gets that he's frustrated, but everyone is frustrated and he's got to do a lot better. So that is definitely something to think about. Now there's also reports about him going straight down the tunnel, but I think his actual Twitter responded to that saying that that's a liar, and he seemed very angry in the post, which is quite interesting. And with everything going on with Cunha, with the strong words by the manager, there is definitely still an opportunity to sign him, which has been made clear by quite a lot of reliable sources such as Fabrizio Romano. Now Matheus Cunha is a very interesting player and not one I've really thought Arsenal would ever consider. Now I've heard that he is in our list of attackers, but that list has so many players on it, and Wolves do want around £80 million, which I think makes sense considering they spent around 50 mil on him, and if you watch them, he is the only attacker that has any sort of ability, it feels like. Now that being said, I had some strong words about Cunha and how he would fit into Arsenal on Twitter, and in that tweet I basically said that I think Cunha is a really good player and could be very viable to a lot of teams. I actually think teams like United should probably look at trying to get him in, and I do like how he progresses the ball from deep through the left half channel. He's obviously left footed, he plays in the left centre mid, also playing left wing as well, coming into the centre, and can definitely be a viable option to be rotational up front. Now despite that, I'm not the most keen person on him in the world. I'm willing to change my opinion maybe, but I do think there are some concerns I have about him if he was to join our club, and it's quite similar to what any of you know the different not Alex has been saying for the last couple of weeks, and it's mostly because his progression is good, but is that really what Arsenal need to spend 70 to 80 mil on right now? And I just do not agree. You know, we do not struggle with progressing the ball. We have so many progressors. If we need a carrier, we've now got Miles Skelly who can do that. We've even got people that can pass the ball quite well, like Rice, Odegaard when he wants to, and he is efficient around the box in certain ways. I think a lot of the time his off the ball runs are very impressive. He does little 1-2s that I quite like, and he's quite progressive even in the box, and he is a great finisher. He can shoot from distance and does take a lot of shots per 90. I think he takes around 3.5. And against Chelsea, you could see that as well, but it did ruin some of the attacks, and I think that was mostly for the frustration with the players around him. Now, I think he would be a good player for Arsenal, I don't doubt that, but I just think we maybe need to go and actually buy direct forward. We mentioned it in the video the other day where we need someone who's going to be direct, who's going to want to take players on in them wing positions and be more effective. Now, Cunha is pretty decent at take-ons, but it's mostly in central areas where he can run into space. It's not really against necessarily a low block all the time. And I always have this thing with Wolves players where they've always played this sort of counter-attacky system play where they really like running into space. I look at all their players like this. João Gomez is another one. Obviously, Pedro Neto, who was there last year. And I worry about their adaptation to be able to transition into a team that is more going to have the ball against a low block. Now, he has obviously played for other teams such as Atletico, who have probably dealt with this a bit more. But for them, he was a little bit more of a box striker and just kind of sat in the middle as efficient. So I don't mind it if you're looking to play him in them roles as well. But in my opinion, if you sign Cunha, that really does stop you from buying Šeško, stops you from buying Isak, and makes a lot of the midfield quite complicated. If I tried to buy Zubimendi in the midfield, if I try to buy Nepan as well in the midfield, I really think we've got too many players that can facilitate that left centre mid spot. You know, we can even play a diamond and play Marzo Skelly there, or I think Zubimendi could probably play left centre mid if given the push. But you still got Rice, you still got Marino who can play there. And if we do sign Nepan as well, he is someone that is probably going to like that role as well. So I just don't know if we need all them players there. Now, he definitely could play as a winger as well. I do think that's good, but he needs players to run off him. And I think that works with Calafiori quite well, but he's not been that fit recently and he's not really been in the team. So I don't know if that's necessarily going to help us there. And I do think in some senses he would make us so much better on the counter attack. He would win the ball and run, which is something we need. But I do find that is not really what we're struggling with. We win the ball high up at the moment, and maybe we don't have enough carriers in the forward areas, which I think is fair that he could definitely do. But I worry a little bit more about the passes coming in. If he's not going to shoot, if he passes it to someone else and we're in a forward three on the break, we're still going to be awful at shooting. That's been one of the problems. We're not direct enough. You know, the players that we have there, other than Trossard, who I will give his credit for, has been good the last few weeks at this. Everyone else has just not really got that sort of instinctive finishing and ability to create chances in that way. So I do really worry about where he would fit into the team long term. Now, I would say as well, if he was a market opportunity, you could maybe definitely look at him. But for £80 million, that is not a market opportunity. That is an incredible amount of money. And I think he's only got around 2.5, maybe 2 years left on his deal. So you've got to think in the summer, even in January next year, if we still could need a player like that, and I don't think necessarily he's vital right now, he will probably be available for even cheaper if he continues not to sign a deal. Now, I know there's always that worry he might go to another team, but I'm not really too worried about Cunha in that situation. I think we really need a winger and a striker a lot more, and yes, he can play winger, he can play striker, but I still think he's probably better deeper in the midfield, which is not what we need. But the concerning factor I think for Arsenal right now is that we don't really see many links. We keep getting told that they're working very secretly and underground, but I'm not gonna lie, there's not that long left of the transfer window. There's about 10 days left, maybe a little bit more. And okay, Wolves away at the weekend, they aren't the best, and obviously Dynamo Zagreb tomorrow, which are 2 games we should win. But after that, we have Man City, and I'd rather have players there ready than faffing around trying to get this done when I just don't think it really changes throughout the market. £67 million for Šeško, I think, is a great deal for the striker he is. He's not complete at all, but it is what we can deal with at the moment. And the only other striker that I think would really be a good option is a guy called Samu from Porto, but he just joined Porto 6 months ago, and there's not been any credible links with us at all, so I just can't see that happening either. Now, overall, there's been some new information coming out while I'm editing this, so I thought I'll include it in the video. And Transfer News and Ticks, who is a very reliable source around Arsenal, even though I'm not necessarily always sure about what he says, has come out and said that Matheus Cunha actually agreed personal terms of Arsenal, which was reported earlier in the month, and he is trying to use that as leverage to get a leave of Wolves right now and join us. So that is definitely something to consider, and everything I said in this video is even more valid, I think, with this recent news. Over in the comments, let me know if you would like Matheus Cunha to join the club or who you think should join, because I definitely think it's an interesting option, but I'm not necessarily exactly vital and certain if that's what we need, but I'm willing to be disproved. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.